Today we'll be looking at teaching speaking skills, focusing on issues of fluency and accuracy and how to set up speaking lessons. Then we'll be looking at how to teach writing skills and important areas like scaffolding the students' writing. More explanation on that later. After the break, teaching grammar. More interesting than it sounds. And we'll finish with more on storytelling. So let's begin first with fluency and accuracy. So I'm going to put a definition on the board, and I want you to tell me whether you think it's fluency or accuracy. So the first, being able to speak at a natural speed without stopping, repeating, or self-correcting. In an oral activity, learners are encouraged to focus on communicating meaning and ideas rather than trying to be correct. Being able to write without stopping for a long time to think about what to write. In a written activity, learners give attention to the content and the ideas of the text rather than trying to be correct. So which do you think it is, Christian? Is that fluency or accuracy?
I think it's fluency.
Yes. Natural speed without stopping, focused on content and ideas rather than trying to be correct with the language, yeah? So the next one then must be accuracy. So let's look at how to define that. And that's the ability to do something without making mistakes. It's the use of correct forms of grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and pronunciation. In an activity focusing on this, teachers and learners usually work on using and producing language correctly. So the key word is correctness, isn't it? Or precision. Right. So let's start with speaking skills. Now, if you need to, you could, any terminology that comes up, you can check in the chat. In the chat, I'm putting the TKT glossary, yeah? And here comes Paula, just in time. Hi, Paula. Hi, Paula. We've only just started. And this is our menu for today. Speaking skills, writing skills, obviously to do with younger learners. After the break, teaching grammar, which is it's a different approach when we're teaching younger learners. And finally, some more on storytelling. So two key concepts to start with are fluency and accuracy. So fluency, we've determined, is speaking at a natural speed without stopping, repeating or self-correcting. Just putting that into the chat. There we go. So you can copy it if you need to. Come back to it later. Because we're going to do an activity in Google Forms now. And we're going to read some activities for developing fluency and accuracy in speaking with younger learners, okay? But you've got to determine, well, are they is the focus in the activity mostly fluency, mostly accuracy, or does it contain elements of both? Okay. So you've got to read through these. I'm going to give you about 40 seconds to read each one. And there are 8 activities. Speaking activities for younger learners. So you've got to decide which is the best answer. Okay, so I'm going to share this link with you now. Okay, so you've got 7 minutes. When you're done, please press submit.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was having issues with my internet.
Hi, Anna Maria. Don't worry. We've recorded the first part of the session. So we're going to be the first half of the session today. We're going to be looking at speaking and writing skills.
Okay.
And the first activity. This is the first activity here. Is
Okay.
we've got to determine. Read these descriptions of activities for younger learners, and you have to decide if the focus is mostly fluency, mostly accuracy, or does it contain elements of both. I'm going to put some definitions into the chat for you. Fluency, that's all about being able to speak at a natural speed without stopping or self-correcting. In a fluency oral activity, learners are encouraged to focus on communicating meaning and ideas rather than trying to be correct. And that's what we do in terms of writing for fluency. In terms of accuracy, that is about being able to speak. Sorry, being able to do something without making mistakes. is the use of correct forms of grammar, vocabulary, spelling, and pronunciation. When you're working on an accuracy activity, usually we're concerned with being producing language correctly. There you go. So save those definitions because you'll find them useful for this Google Forms activity. You can see it on the screen. Here's the link. Please click on the link. And a few minutes left to have a go at that. You've got to choose whether the activity is focused mostly on accuracy, mostly on fluency, or has elements of both. All right, Paula, did you finish? Yeah, you already submitted your answers? Anna Maria, do you need a bit more time? I guess so, yeah? Anna Maria, you need more time? Just indicate with a thumbs up if you need more time, or a smile if you're ready to continue and get the answers. I'll give you one more minute then. All right, well, let's check your answers, shall we? I think it's sufficient if one person has submitted, so responses, here we go, let's have a look. Yes, the first one is correct. Well done, Paula. It's mostly accuracy, yeah? It's pretty controlled, isn't it? Doesn't allow much for creativity. Yeah, it's like controlled practice of pronunciation, isn't it? Then okay, the second one is dialogues and role play. And you said mostly fluency. That's indeed correct. Yeah. It's designed to get students speaking naturally without stopping, repeating. 3. So you said, so that's listen and participate. Yes, that's also mostly accuracy. Dramatization. The correct answer here is has elements of both. Dramatization, because why? Well, when you're getting students to like remember lines that they're going to say as actors in a dramatization, that involves some accuracy. Yeah. It also depends on how improvised the dramatization is. You know, if it's more scripted, then it's going to be more accuracy. If it's more improvised, right, students are making it up as they go along, well, that would be more fluency. So the next one is memory games. The answer is mostly accuracy, correct. Next one is the information gap. The answer here is mostly has elements of both fluency and accuracy. Why? Because although the students are exchanging information, you can make it more focused on accuracy by controlling the questions that they use, right? Or specifying the language that they could use. Yeah. Like, for example, you get two students trying to arrange a time when they can meet, looking at each other's calendars. You could specify that they're going to use the present continuous tense to talk about future arrangements. So that would help with accuracy. But normally, yes, it would be fluency, but does have elements of both. Number 7, telling a story is, mostly fluency. And finally, 8, questionnaires and surveys. That would be mostly fluency, not accuracy. Yeah. So that's when they're interviewing about their abilities, likes and dislikes. You could include elements of accuracy by getting them to maybe practice the questions before they ask them or formulate the questions together. But the actual asking of the questions and the responses would be more focused on fluency. Yeah? Does that make sense? Any doubts? Okay. Now you're going to get this on a handout at the end, yeah? So you don't have to worry about keeping this because you're going to get a handout or a worksheet, right? But now let's focus, let's do some figure out what is the purpose and also the materials that we can use with these activity types. So it's the same activity types: look, listen and repeat, dialogues and role play, listen and participate, the dramatization, memory games, information gap, retelling a story, and questionnaires and surveys. So I'd like you and Anna Maria to work together, and you kind of got to match the stickies to make a set. Okay, so let's do the first one. Look, listen, and repeat. All right, so the activity type is that. What is the purpose? It would be this, right? Introduce new vocabulary or structures and focus on the formal pronunciation. Okay. Now, you may have to look at the activity again on in the Google form, yeah? So read over the activities again, if necessary. Yeah? I'll give you the link to the Google form again. So maybe have two screens open on your browser, one with the Google form so you can look at the activities, and the other with the Google Doc open. Sorry, the Google, the Jamboard. Because the activity is on the Jamboard. But you need to read about the activities on forms. Okay, so listen, look, listen, and repeat. So we've got to think about, okay, what is the materials for that? What materials would we use? Any ideas?
A picture, of course.
Yes, that makes sense, doesn't it? Very good, yes. So it would be picture cards. Okay, so there we've got a set. Okay, so I'd like you to do the same with the other 7 activities. Try to find the purpose of the activity and some materials that go with it. Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, did you send the Google Jamboard?
The Jamboard. Here it's coming now. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Christian. Now, what we're doing is matching those 8 speaking activities to the purpose for doing them and the materials that we would use in the activity. So I'm just putting the links here. To do this, you need to have open the form, the Google form, so that you can read about the activities again. And you need to have open the Jamboard. Yeah. What we're currently working on is on the Jamboard, and we're trying to match the activity type with its purpose or proposito and the materials. Okay. So I'll give you some minutes to work on that together. 6 should be enough.
Chris, I think we need to match the activity, the same purpose, and the materials for that activity and purpose. So, for example, the first says, look, listen, and repeat. And that's the purpose is to introduce new vocabulary. And for that, you need picture cards or all that. The example is picture cards with animals, colors, and actions. Chris, Ana Maria. So I have once, but you, Ana Maria, just move it. I think, for example, memory games could be with develop memory skills. Please tell me something.
Can you listen to me?
Again, Chris.
Okay, perfect. So if I understand, we need to match the activity with the purpose and the material.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry.
Why did you do that?
What?
I think, for example, dialogues and play role is with to provide a memorable occasion for practicing spoken English to develop confidence. Or why do you decide that? The other?
Because with that dialogues and role play, I think that we can give the chance to work independently.
Yes.
And also with the dialogues with another student, they can practice about listening skill.
No. It's because it's a real communication. Okay, I agree with you. Two with C. Yes, two and C.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to call time on this activity. You've got some of them right. So let me just show you the answers. And here are the answers. Okay, so dialogues and role play is to provide fluency practice, to extend language use, develop social skills of interaction and turn taking. Typically, these students are given role play cards. For example, student A, customer, you want to buy some biscuits. Student B, you haven't got any biscuits. Yeah. So you say, oh, very sorry, I don't have them. Number 3 is listen and participate. This is to involve students actively when listening to stories or rhymes. It's to provide a meaningful and familiar context in which to repeat language. Materials could be storybooks, riddles, rhymes, and poems. Dramatization. This is to provide a memorable occasion for practicing spoken English. The purpose is to develop confidence, to develop memory skills, because they've got to try and remember the lines. And that also helps them to develop accuracy, because they have to be precise with their use of language. And it's also to provide integrated skills and develop social skills of interaction and turn taking as well. On to memory games. There, the purpose is to develop memory skills, to practice pronunciation, and to provide hidden pattern practice to improve concentration and listening. Now, for that, short spoken messages or lists of items can be used for the students to try and remember, right? And then they can pass on the message from what they remember. A bit like Chinese whispers. On to information gap. The purpose there is to give pupils a chance to work independently of the teacher and to practice fluency, to use the language for real communication, and develop social skills of interaction. Is it interaction? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. And turn taking, yeah. So they have to take turns to exchange information. And for that, they might need language like, it's my turn, it's your turn, and so on. Materials would be a worksheet A, student A, worksheet for pupil B, right? And on the worksheet, there's some information that A has that B doesn't have, and vice versa. So they have to exchange the information. We also do that with adults quite often, especially for freer practice. Now, retelling a story, there, what we would do is, this is to check purpose is to check that students have understood the main events in the story. It's to practice, to provide, sorry, it should be to provide pronunciation practice, as well as some storytelling techniques such as disguising the voice and so on. And there you could use captions written on card or in speech bubbles, picture prompts. Finally, questionnaires and surveys. Purpose: give students a chance to work independently of the teacher. Yeah. So the teacher doesn't have to be doing everything in a speaking lesson. To practice fluency, to use the language for real communication, to develop social skills, and practice listening skills, and to use, because when you're doing a survey, you've got to listen to what the other person is saying, right? So it involves active listening. And then we can use this information for a specific purpose. And typically worksheets to complete for questionnaires, yeah? Like an encuesta. And you can easily do encuestas online these days, can't you? If you're teaching online, you can use Google Forms to collect information, or the students can use that to collect information from each other. Okay, now I'm going to send you the answers and to this activity. So prepare the answers. It's on this Young Learner Fluency and Accuracy Answers. Okay, so you can refer to it later. Because what I'd like you to do is, well, choose one of these activities. Okay. And so it could be any one of these activities that you like the look of, that maybe you'd like to try with a student. All right. So I'm going to have you work on a Jamboard and sort of plan how you would set up the activity. So Paula and Anna Maria. Now, Paula, you may have to do some of this on your own because Anna Maria is obviously having problems. But when she comes in, she can help you. So, for a speaking lesson, there's usually a lead-in, like an introduction, to give the students an idea of what they're going to be doing. There's usually preparing some useful expressions. There's usually a speaking task, and there's usually some feedback. And Christian. So I'd like you to choose one of these activities and build a lesson around it, a speaking lesson around it. Just say briefly what you would put in each of these stages. So let me put some stickies on the board here. So Christian, which do you like of these that you have seen? Of the 8. Which would you like to try with a
memory game.
Memory game, okay. All right, so you are on slide 3. And you're going to do memory game. See if you can build a lesson around memory game. So the speaking task is going to be the actual memory game itself. Right? But do they need anything before in terms of preparation? So think about that. And Paula and Anna Maria, which would you like to do? Which of those 8 activities would you like to try with a group?
Role play.
Role play, that's a good one. Okay. All right. So the role play is going to be the speaking task, yeah? Itself. So you need to think about what are the other stages that would lead to the role play, and how would you give feedback on the role play? Yeah. So Christian, yours would be the memory game itself. All right, I'll give you a few minutes to think about what would be the stages before and after. Do you have access to the slides? Yeah, can you write on them? Paula, can you test?
Yes, I am working
Okay.
on.
Okay, I'll put you and Anna Maria into a breakout room so you can talk together.
Okay.
Okay. And memory game, I will assist Christian.
Okay.
So let's give you about 6 minutes.
Okay.
So memory game. Let's talk together about that. So how would you start by introducing this lesson, Christian? If we look at the notes, it says games like I went to the market and bought. So it requires them to repeat a certain structure or word.
Yes, but in this case, if I'll give them the sentence, I went to market and bought. Could I teach about vocabulary of food?
Right, I think you would need to, wouldn't you? But that would be in the preparing useful expressions, right? But maybe we could set a context in the lead in, right? So we have a context in which it's to do with, has your mum ever asked you to go to the shop and buy something or go to the market? Maybe you could ask, did you take a shopping list or did you remember it? So then maybe you could elicit, okay, what sort of things do you when your mom asks you to go to the shop or the market or the supermarket, what does she often ask you to get? So what would you expect them to say? Maybe milk,
Milk, bread.
tortillas. Yeah.
Vegetables. Water. Sausage. Sausage.
Yeah, sausage is a good one. It's a good way of reviewing some vocabulary, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we could go on like that, but also you need to have some useful expressions, don't you? So like, I went to the market and bought. So we need to teach that expression. Maybe other expressions like your turn, it's my turn. Okay, now how do we set up the speaking task? This memory game speaking task.
Okay. This memory game, it's about give them some flashcards with the vocabulary.
Memory game. Let's have a look. Does it say that? Memory game. No, it says short spoken messages or lists of items. Because what we've got to do is remember, we've got to get the students to, well, pronounce the words properly and pass the message on a line. So I think the first thing would be to get the students to stand in a line, right?
Okay.
So maybe the teacher would then
stand in a line and give them the list with the vocabulary.
Okay. But isn't the idea that they're like, if it's like the Chinese whisperers, they would like, the teacher says like a word to the student, and like, I want you to go to I went to the market and bought sausages. And then it says it's your turn. So the student says, I went to the market and bought sausages and milk. And he whispers that to the next student. So each student has got to add an item to the list. Yeah, that's how, I think that's how it works. So you've got to sort of see whispers. Student one's ear. And that continues all along the line, right?
Okay, okay.
So the students have to try and remember this long list of items, but they're adding to the list as well. Any ideas what the feedback could be?
The feedback could be with the pronunciation. If they make a mistake, the teacher say the word,
Yeah.
and the student repeat after him.
Yeah. Team models and drills. Correct word. Yeah. Correct. Wrong. Yeah, I think that would work, wouldn't it? Yeah. So have you seen what we've just been doing, Paula? We were planning the memory game class. So Christian, could you just explain briefly to Paula how we would set up this memory game class lesson?
Okay. For this lesson about the memory game, our letting, it's about the teacher gives the context or set the context about, it's about a supermarket, and we ask some question like, has your mom ever asked you to go to the market or supermarket? And did you take a shopping list or did you remember everything? Okay. After they answer, we prepare some useful expression, or well, we we teach about vocabulary about food, like milk, tortillas, bread, vegetables, bottles of water or soda, and sausages. When we pre-teach this vocabulary, I need to give them the useful expression that they could use in this case. Like, I went to the supermarket and bought. Okay, when they said that, they need to say it's your turn to next student. And the speaking task, we need to stand in the, well, they need to stand in line, and the teacher say the first expression. I went to market and bought milk. To the student number one. Student number one listened to the teacher and asked his words. I went to the market and bought milk and bread. And the student two listened that and asked his words. And they need to do that until the last student or until someone make a mistake. To finish, the feedback, it's about the errors, about pronunciation. The teacher say the word and the student repeat after him. And that's it.
Good job, Christian. Good explanation. Paula, can you explain to, well, Anna Maria and to Christian how your role play would work?
Yes, the ladies show a video about giving directions, and in the preparing uses expression. It's necessary to focus on grammar, pronunciation, and meaning of some expressions like turn on, turn off, go straight, and questions like how can I get to, for example, station or where place of the city. And after that, ask to the student, create a short dialogue, asking and giving directions by themselves, and correct them the grammar in that moment. So after that, in the speaking task, they can act and say that dialogues. In the feedback, correct pronunciation and intonation to sound more naturally.
Great. Great. Yeah. Okay, so that's speaking skills. Now, speaking skills will be one of the first teaching practices that we'll use with the young learners. Now, next week, the tutor on Monday will give you a demonstration of a speaking or writing lesson. And your first teaching practice in either speaking or writing will be next Wednesday with me. Okay, your tutor will tell you which is it going to be. Is it going to be a speaking lesson or writing? But normally, if on the adult course you did writing, then it's normally speaking on this one. Yeah. So can you remember, Christian, whether you did writing or speaking on the adult course? Can you remember? In your TP, was it TP4? Did you do speaking or writing? Can you remember?
I give writing.
Writing. So it's probably going to be speaking then.
Okay.
On this course. Paula, can you remember? Was it speaking or writing last time?
Speaking.
Was it speaking in the adult course?
Yes. Okay. I think.
Okay, so it'll be writing on probably on the young learner course. And Anna Maria, can you remember? Did you do speaking or writing on your the adult course in TP4?
It was speaking.
Okay, so it'd probably be writing then. Writing with younger learners. So that's what we're going to focus on now. Is what writing skills, how to teach writing skills. It's always a tricky one. Okay, so I'm going to just get this PowerPoint open first. Teaching writing, here we go. Okay, so let's just go over the aims of this part. The aims of the following. We should be able to understand the difference between how children learn to write in their first language and their second language, L1 and L2. Understand ways of creating a supportive writing classroom. And understand what are the appropriate skills to instruct in at the beginning and later stages of a child's development. So we're going to start with the very younger ones, and then go to the older ones. And we'll, if there's time, we may not have time for this, but I think we'll have some time to work on writing as a process and possibly have an idea of how to use a genre approach for creative and functional writing. So first one, oh yes. Okay, those are the answers. Don't want to show you that. So we do need the handout that I sent you in the email, which I'll send you again. Where is that? Oh, yes. Coming in the chat now. Okay. So we have a short text to read to introduce some important concepts. All right, so the authors, the text is a really useful book called The Primary English Teacher's Guide. This is my personal copy, but I think they might have one in the Anglo Library in Mexico City. So what you should do here is it's like a gist activity this table helps to summarize the text. Okay, so you read quite quickly in about 3 minutes, and then try to 2 to 3 minutes, and then try to match the ones on the left with the long ones on the right. So numbers to letters. All right, put your answers please into the chat when you're done. Start the clock now. So it's just, so you've got to try and do it quite quickly. All right, please put your answers into the chat. Let's see if I've got the answers. So the answer indeed is 1C, yeah. Young pupils may need to copy letter shapes to practice handwriting, develop knowledge of lexis and spelling, and practice sentence structures. Yes, that's right. Second year pupils may do writing that provides language practice, helping them to consolidate vocabulary, grammatical structures, and sentence patterns. Yeah, children enjoy personalized writing that enables them to write about their knowledge, experience, and feelings. Correct. And older pupils is B, more aware of the communicative purpose of writing. So we should find ways of putting their work on display for others to read. Correct. Just to confirm. Now, Brewster and Ellis say it's important to contextualize writing. What do they mean by this? So you may have to go back to the text and infer. What do they mean by, why do you think it's important to contextualize writing? What does that mean exactly? So I'll have a look in the text again. Any ideas?
Probably because if the student imagine the context, for example, imagine that you are writing to aunt that she's in the other part of the world, they can get some ideas to start to write something and talk with her while writing.
Yeah. So make it like a real life situation, right? So that the students can see what is the purpose of writing. Yeah. So don't do writing that seems very like grammar practice, you know, like write 10 sentences about your favorite pop star. Yeah. That's not realistic writing. It's not contextualized writing. However, something like write a review of the Paul McCartney concert you went to, or Taylor Swift. Even if you didn't go to Taylor Swift, you could like listen to what people said about it and write a review. So make it real life. It says here in the text, the more pressing need is to ensure writing is contextualized and, where possible, sometimes relates to a real life situation, as when pupils write up the results of a survey they have carried out with classmates. So there are lots of, surveys that you can do. It could be about healthy eating, what music format you use. Do you use MP3? Do you use CDs? Do you use vinyl? And then, so you go around, students ask each other and make notes on with their form. Okay, 5 students have MP3. 2 students listen to Spotify. 1 student has a collection of vinyl records. 5 students has CDs. All right. So then you collect that information. The students work together, collect that information, make a poster. All right, and then report back to the class, or maybe write up the results of the survey and post them on the wall. So it can actually be writing and speaking as well. You can combine the 2 skills. That's what we call integrated skills work. All right, now let's move on to spelling. English spelling. Is it easy or problematic, would you say? What do you think Brewster and Ellis say about English spelling? In the first sentence. Paolo, can you read?
Sure. By Jean, English spelling is illogical and difficult, and it's not easy for young children to learn. According to
do you agree? From your own experience, do you agree with that? It's illogical and difficult?
Yes.
I think many students find it difficult, of all nationalities. Yeah, it's not the best part of the English language, the spelling system. Yeah. Okay, could you continue?
According to Palmer, there are 4 main ways in which children learn the spelling of words: visual, auditory, linguistics, and kinesthetic. With visual style, learners respond to the shapes of words and the patterns of letter strings within them and have a feeling whether something looks right. With auditory style, it is better for learners to sound the word out as they can recognize the relationship between sounds and letters or groups of letters. With kinesthetic style, spelling is a graphic motor skill, and the writer lets the hand remember the kind
of movements, yeah,
and shapes made when producing words. And the linguistic style is when some children might draw on they grow older and develop skills in seeing relationship between words based on grammar, meaning, and so on. However, it is important to remember that a multisensory approach is probably the best for all your learners.
That's a good tip. But multisensory approach to spelling is a good one, yeah?
Yeah.
Why? Because it involves more of the senses and is therefore likely, students are more likely to remember if it's multisensory. Yeah. So, the look, say, cover, write, and check technique. is one you can teach students for self-testing their spelling. This is a very useful technique, I think. But because it also makes us think about these learning styles. Yeah, we often hear about learning styles, and there's like, oh yeah, it's all about a bit pseudoscience. But actually, this is one good application, I think. So I'd like you to try to put the 7 stages of the activity in the correct order. So when you're done, I'll give you a few minutes to think about this. When you're done, put your answers, please, into the chat. Which makes sense? Which should go first? There's actually a clue in the name of the activity. Look, say, cover, write, check. Think about that when you're trying to order these stages. All right, so Christian says C goes first. And that's in fact correct, yeah. So let me mark on here. One. It's not letting me run. It's the color. It's not right. Text. Ah, yes, color. So the first one is C. Okay. Second one is A. Very good. Three is. You think it's B? According to my answers, it's actually D. 3 is D. All right, let me just put the answer in there. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense that B would be 3, right? According to the answers, 4 is B. Five is G. I say. Five is G. 6 is F. I say. And 7 is E. What do you think? Do you agree? Does something not look right there? So let's read them out in order and see if it sounds correct. Paula, could you read number 1 for us, please?
Yes, look and notice the letter shapes and number of letters. Think about the word and make a mental picture. Make this picture big then small in different colors. If the word is right, you can draw a real picture of the word. Number 2, say the words and then the letter out loud. Listen carefully. Number 3, write the word and in there with one finger several times, making it large and small. Okay. Number 4, cover the word and try to write it correctly on a paper, syllable by syllable. Number 5, make sure you have the letter for each of the most important sounds. 6, see if it looks right. If not, change it. Letter E. Now check to see if the spelling is correct. If not, repeat stage 1 to 6. I have a question. For example, if I give this like advice to the students, they need to do every day this with different words, or how can I work?
Well, you can give them spelling tests periodically, yeah, and you can experiment with different techniques, yeah, and maybe I don't know, maybe the start of term you could teach this technique, and see if it works with the students, see if they, you know, if they like it, demonstrate it in the class, and then have the spelling test maybe a week later and see how well they do. And then maybe you could do another week. You give them a list of words for the spelling test that are going to come up in the spelling test, but you don't tell them to do this technique. So then you could compare and see which is the most effective. Like no technique for doing it, or using this technique.
Okay. It's supposed that all these steps is because it's a multi-sensory approach, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
That's right.
So useful for me because this week I asked some student, the best student, to share their techniques, and one of them says like something like, well, first I see a picture, after that I understand what is the meaning of the picture and the word. I just sing a song and start like for example, say S-A-Y, and all the time she says is singing, and other people says no, well, I like to write one time the word, and after that, like a later, I start at the beginning with the first letter and the second line, the two first letters, and so on to finish the word. And other students says something like, well, I just see the word and start to walk around my house. I'm going to the kitchen, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to my bed, and all the time I just thinking about that word.
All right, well, that might work for them, but you've got to remember that sometimes it doesn't work for them. And maybe it's because they're not aware that they could be using a different sensory style. Yeah. So get them to experiment with different sensory styles that they may not be aware of.
Okay.
So let's go through these again and determine which, if any, of the four styles are being put to use at each stage. So number one, what do you think that is? Is it visual, auditory, linguistic, or kinesthetic? Let's look at it. Look and notice the letter shapes and number of letters. Think about the word and make a mental picture. Make this picture big and then small in different colors. You can draw a picture of the word. So is that visual, auditory, linguistic, or kinesthetic?
Visual.
It's mainly visual, isn't it? So let's put V for visual there. Yeah. Change color. V. Okay. So number two, say the words and the letters out loud. Listen carefully. Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? Yeah, auditory. A for auditory. Yeah. Yeah. Number three, write the word in the air. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic, right? Obviously. Okay, for kinesthetic. For cover the word and try to write it correctly on the paper, syllable by syllable. If it involves action, then it's
Visual and kinesthetic. Could we?
no, it doesn't involve visual, but it's kinesthetic. Because it's covered, so there's no visual there. So you're using your muscle memory, aren't you? Yeah, the feeling of how it feels with your body, the letter. G. Sorry, number 5. Make sure you have a letter for each of the most important sounds. It's a key word. It's auditory, isn't it? Six. See if it looks right. Be visual, right? And 7 is also visual, right? Because it uses the word see. See if the spelling is correct. Visual. Yeah, so compare your version with the correct version. Does that make sense? It's an interesting technique. Students may not be accustomed to trying different learning styles like that. Right, so now let's consider support in later years writing. Moving on, this is the same, our same this is a longer text. Okay, so it says, Brewster and Ellis believe that providing support frameworks to pupils for writing production is important. What reasons can you think for this? So this is question number 1. Just in number 1, just ignore number 2 for the minute. No, it's tempting. Why do you think they believe that providing support frameworks to pupils for writing production, right? The actual writing.
Because with the support framework, we can give them an idea to use in the writing.
Yeah, that could be it. So giving ideas, yeah. Stimulating ideas. But why do we give support to students generally? Is it because the task is easy or is it because it's difficult?
Difficult.
Yeah. So do you think writing in a foreign language is easy or difficult?
Most difficult.
It is pretty difficult, isn't it? Yeah. Because there's so many aspects of it, aren't there? Like there's conventions of writing in a foreign language, right? How you lay out the text on the page, you know, the grammar and vocabulary that go in there, you know, spelling conventions, punctuation conventions. There's so many things to think about, aren't there? Yeah. All right, let's see what Brewster and Ellis say about why it's important to provide support frameworks. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to read the read the text all the way through and find the section about support frameworks. Huh. I don't know if you noticed, but it doesn't actually say, does it? Explicitly why they think it's important to provide support frameworks. But I think we can, from our understanding of educational theory, learning theory, we can sort of infer their thinking. Now, have you heard of this expression? Important concept in education. Scaffolding. Do you know what the Spanish word is for that? What's the Spanish word for scaffolding? While you think about it, I'll show you a picture.
Scaffolding is like one task divided in different activities. Is that concept, Andrew?
All right, tell me what the Spanish word is first then. What is the Spanish translation of scaffolding? Here's a clue.
Okay, andamio.
Andamio. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so it's a temporary support structure, right? Andamiaje, says my wife. Andamiaje, right? that builders use when they're constructing a building. But we can use that metaphor and apply it to learning, can't we? So it's metaphorical. Yeah. Is that right? Now, an educationalist, an American educationalist called Bruner in 1976, he coined this phrase, scaffolding. And he takes it from the social constructivist theory of learning. Which comes from Vygotsky. He was a Russian psychologist, the beginning of the 20th century. So we can, going back to what Brewster and Ellis probably think, so they may believe in the importance of scaffolding. This is the metaphor of temporary interactional support that is given to learners while their language system is under construction. This support from teachers, parents, or better others, it doesn't have to be teachers or parents. It could be an older brother with more skills than the younger brother. Right? And that enables them to perform a task at a level beyond their present competence. Right? So using support, it could be through language or through these diagrams for writing, right? To help them with the writing. So like this tiger diagram, all right? That's a kind of scaffolding which is going to help them produce a short text about tigers. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bunch of visual support activities. And I want you to match the names with the illustrations. Okay, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 of them. Okay, so I'm going to share with you in the chat. Okay, please click on. And you can see that there are 9. Okay, you may have to move the second page. Let's do the first one together, which is the grid matrix. Which one is the grid matrix, do you think? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, 6, 7, or 8? Looks kind of weird and negative, doesn't it? Let's put it in negative onto the. So which of these is the grid matrix? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which has a grid, a matrice? Sometimes it's easy to identify through the shape.
It's number 4.
Number 4, yeah, and that, you probably use that for planning a description of different objects, like or in this case, it's fruit and vegetables. Okay, so I'll give you some minutes to see if you can identify the others. Okay, so what about number 1? Those are called palomas, aren't they? Tick chart, right? What could you use that for?
In this case, to know what clothes we need to use with the weather.
Yeah, writing about different types of clothes that you need for certain weather conditions, right? If it's raining, you need wellies, shoes, and trousers. Yeah. How about number 2?
Could be the bullseye chart.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Because it's like an eye of a bull, isn't it? Yeah. Often using targets if you go shooting or firing arrows. Yeah, it's bullseye. bullseye chart. That's number 2. 3 we've already said. Oh no, 4 we've said. What about 3? So that's it. That's quite useful for planning. If you're talking about writing about Christmas in different situations in my house, in my country. So you could get students to write notes in each of those parts of the bullseye. What about number 3? Could you use that for a sort of biology project? So which of those is it? Is it a Venn diagram? Is it a pie chart? It's not a grid or a matrix. It's a flow chart. Yeah, flow chart. Because it shows a process, doesn't it? Yeah. So that's a good one when students have to write about a process. Yeah. Get them to plan it on a flow chart, possibly using images like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Yeah. And they might need that in science class, right? So maybe you're doing a project about, a biology project, maybe linking it to something they're doing in the science classes at school. I think they call that transversality, where you're working across disciplines. Let's continue. So that's, yeah, that's flow chart. What about 5? I think in Spanish it's called the same, right? Diagram Venn. Venn diagram. Yeah. So it's quite useful for presenting diagrammatically what things have in common. Yeah. Which is, they could get them to distinguish which is correct first. Yeah. So your guinea pig just eats lettuce. The tortoise eats both lettuce and milk, and just the cat eats the milk. 6.
It's a tree diagram.
3. Yeah, or family tree diagram, right? What could they use that for? To write about what?
Your family members.
Family members, yeah. So they work out visually the family relationships and then start to write about it. 7.
Timeline.
Timeline. And 8.
Graph.
Yeah, so it's like how thirsty are you during the day? And finally,
Pie chart.
yeah, pie chart. So the students have collected information from each other by doing a survey or the encuesta, right? And then they have all this data, and then they have to represent the data visually and then write about it. Yeah, but actually having it visually represented then aids them, assists them with the actual the writing. So yeah, you might say like 33% of us have broken our arm. Yeah, maybe 5% have broken our fingers. It's quite amusing, that, isn't it? Like, okay, 1% have broken our skull. So what do you think? Do you think those could be useful for writing lessons? Yeah. Sometimes we don't often think about the support that students need when they're doing something as difficult as writing in a foreign language. So that's the reason to do it. Yeah. Okay, I don't think we're going to have time to prepare to tell the whole group how you would adapt it or use it with a whole class that you would know. So we'll move on. These are the answers. Let's move on to process of writing. And it says here on our worksheet, it's important to share with children the understanding that writing is a process that passes through different stages. The diagram below shows the main categories of planning, drafting, and revising. Now, I think you know what planning means, but what drafting? What would be the Spanish equivalent of drafting? Have you ever written a document and called it the first, el primer borrador? Yeah? So a draft is a borrador. It's like the first version. Right? So when we conceive writing as a process, we need to sort of show the children how to go through different stages. So which do you think goes first? So there are 7 recommended ones here. Which do you think goes first and which goes last?
Choose a topic. After that, generate ideas.
That's right so far. What goes in the drafting section?
we write the first draft.
Yeah. Then in revising, what would we have there?
Proofread.
Yeah, I think edit and revise needs to come next, right? Because editing is also about the ideas, the content, right? Whereas proofread is more about, okay, do the ideas make sense once you've written them? And also, is the grammar and vocabulary and the spelling, is that all correct? Yeah, so I would say proofread is a slightly later one than edit and revise. Yeah.
So first is edit and revise, and after that proofread.
Yeah, and finally,
Publish and submit.
publish and submit. Yeah. So we can use this as a way of sometimes with young learner classes are quite short, so it's not always possible to do all of this in one lesson. So we may have to spread out this process of writing over several classes. Yeah. So for example, you could give the students for homework, they have to write the first draft. Then they bring it into the lesson next time. The first draft of a paragraph, of an essay, and then they can work together with a partner to edit and revise, and peer-to-peer, proofread, and eventually submit it. Yeah, possibly on a class blog forum. All right, and then finally, diagrams can be useful guide for children, not just for the process of writing, but also its structure. So articles use an inverted pyramid. So these are often used in newspaper articles. So the first one is the lead, which summarizes the story's most important facts. There's a paragraph that adds more details or background information. More details, and more details. So the purpose of the inverted pyramid is that you can actually remove the lower parts, the less important stuff, like if you need to, if you have a limited space to publish the news article, you can just remove parts from the bottom. So that's why it's designed like that. However, essays typically use a hamburger. Right, so you have an introduction with different sentences within it, such as a thesis statement. And then paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, they usually develop the themes in the thesis statement. And then there's a conclusion at the end, which refers back to the introduction. Okay. But obviously these ones would be from older, maybe teenagers. Right. All right. I think it's almost break time. After the break, we're going to be working on grammar, which I think is going to be actually more interesting than it sounds, because it's going to be, we'll be looking at inductive approaches to teaching grammar, which is a bit like, remember that we looked at guided discovery in the adult course. Now, this is the version, the equivalent in young learners is what we call the inductive approach to grammar. So I think you'll find it interesting. So let's return. How much of a break do you want? 15 minutes, is that enough?
Yes.
So we could maybe finish a bit earlier rather than staying late. Okay, so let's return at 18:30.
Okay, bye.
All right. Is that okay with you, Christian?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.